The Indianapolis Colts have, again, a lot of freaking money. They have the second most amount of cap space this offseason, 86 million smackers to work with this offseason. The Colts, I think, are a team that could make big plays at a lot of positions, and I think that they are in a perfect position. I think they've actually nailed this because they are perfectly aligned to address a lot of their needs through this year's free agency, specifically on the defensive line and at edge rusher, which is two of their top three needs outside of quarterback, right? So first off, I think Phillip Rivers is the answer at quarterback. I know some Colts fans are split on that. Some like it, some hate it. He's better than Jacoby. He has a good feel for the offense. He's still not a bad quarterback, but he's not what he used to be. I think in Indianapolis he would be better than the way he played with the Chargers last year. Now, if they don't sign him, I think Teddy Bridgewater would be a good add. I think the interesting one is Jameis Winston, because Winston has all the talent in the world, and if he was with an offensive line like the Colts and with an offensive coach like Frank Reich, who's really good with quarterbacks, I think that would be the best move. If they could get Winston and somehow turn him into an elite quarterback, that would be fascinating, but I do feel like that's a little bit too bold for what the Colts typically like. So Teddy Bridgewater is a good option if you want to go with more of a game manager type that you could get. He just doesn't have a huge ceiling. That's the thing I worry about Teddy Bridgewater. But if you could argue Teddy Bridgewater is just as good as Rivers, plus he's younger, and he might be just about the same amount. Do you try and steal Tannehill away from Tennessee? I doubt that, but I could see it because Tannehill is a good player. I don't think they're in play for Tom Brady, although I would think that they should be. Because I don't think if they could get Tom Brady and a couple other pieces, I think they wouldn't be too far off from being a really good contending type of team. But again, this is a team that's built themselves off of drafting, built themselves off a young team with low contracts. They've done an absolute spectacular job building this team. I want to see them finally spend some money. That's where I really have my nitpick with the Colts, is I want to see them finally go all in. And I think this is the offseason to do that. So, edge and defensive line. If they could somehow trade for Chris Jones, that would be the best move they could potentially do. They have the money to do it. They have the draft capital to do it. If any team can do it, they can do it. Chris Jones would be an absolute defensive changing type of addition for their team. I don't think DJ Reader or Hargrave are scheme fits. I don't think Shelby Harris is a scheme fit. I don't think Leonard Williams is the type of player they want. A lot of these guys, like, maybe they go out and they sign, like, Quentin Jefferson is a little under the radar type of name, but he is a good player, played for Seattle last year. Do they go, like, with a Billings from Cincinnati who would work in a similar type of defensive scheme? I could see them signing Malik Collins, who played in the same type of defense in Dallas. For Eberflus in Indianapolis, they play like basically identical schemes in Dallas and Indianapolis. Covington, same thing, who's a good player, kind of under the radar. Vernon Butler, I brought up. I realize now that he actually was a dick to the Colts, so I'm going to stay out of that one. For the edge position, Ngakoue, I think, would be fascinating. I don't think the Jags would trade him to the Colts because they're franchising him, so that sucks, but he would be a perfect add. I think they're in play for Clowney. I think they're the team that's sliding under there and saying, this is the thing, though. Do they want to take on Clowney because of his injury history? That's the only question I have there. I don't know. I don't think they will. But I don't think they'll be the team to sign Clowney, but I do think they'll be in the conversation. I think they could be in the conversation for Robert Quinn. I think they could be in the conversation for Jason Pierre-Paul. I think they could be in the conversation for Vic Beasley. I think they could be in the conversation for Shaq Lawson. Ogba, I could see as well. I could see a lot of these names, honestly. They fit. Fowler, maybe. It depends how much money he goes for. Linebacker-wise, they're pretty solid. I do see them like bringing in Sean Lee or a veteran type of linebacker to add to the depth there. Safety-wise, they could use a strong safety. Clayton Gathers seems to be gone. Or Geathers? I believe that's how you pronounce his name. He's a solid strong safety. I don't think he's going to re-sign. He's more of like a downhill in the box type of guy. I think honestly, it would be pretty cool if they went out and signed like a Devin McCourty type. But they already have Malik Hooker, who is their free safety. He's dealt with some injury issues in the past. Maybe they get like Trey Boston, who could play both. I think Adrian Phillips is the type of under-the-radar, really good player that they could get for not a lot of money that I think would be great at strong safety for them. A lot of the top names in free agency are free safeties. Do they go after like Carl Joseph, who's like a former first-round pick, who maybe they could turn into a better player in this scheme? Jeff Heath is a guy that played with Eberflus before. Maybe he goes there at strong safety. There's a lot of names. I do think they at least sign one of these edge guys at the top of the list. I think they sign one of these interior defensive linemen, and then all of a sudden you're looking at a Colts defense that probably will be pretty good. Maybe they draft somebody at safety. I think they're solid at corner. Maybe they could add somebody, but I don't think they're going to spend huge money at the position. Like, I don't think they're a team that will go after Byron Jones or Chris Harris, because they're pretty good there. Like Desir, Moore, Rocky Sin, these guys are also Quincy Wilson, pretty good, but not like excellent. They're going to re-sign Anthony Costanzo. I don't think they're going to sign a big name free agent. Did they bring back Devin Funchess at receiver? That's interesting, but they want to keep their offensive line together. I think they're decent at running back. Tight end, Eric Ebron's gone. Jack Doyle, though, is fine at tight end. Maybe they bring in a rookie for the backup. The thing is with receiver, like, they don't have a lot of money. The Colts have a lot of money. There's not a lot of receivers in this free agency that are going to go for big money. There's not a lot of big-time free agents. It's basically Cooper, Green, there's a drop-off, then it's like Anderson, Sanders, Perryman, these type of guys. I think they probably, they drafted one pretty high last year, and I think they want to see what they can get out of him in Campbell. They have T.Y. still, and I think he's going to stick around. He's like a legend in Indianapolis. But another name, like another guy to bring in, maybe they try and go for like a Robbie Anderson or a Demarcus Robinson. Maybe they bring in Nelson Aguilar, who used to play with Frank Reich in Philadelphia. So those are some options. Those are some names for Indianapolis. But I'm really intrigued by Indianapolis because I finally want to see them spend some darn money in free agency, and I think they will. I think at the end of free agency, my prediction is the Colts defense will be a lot better, and they will have their quarterback. Those are my two predictions for the Colts.